I commend this bill to the House. Thank you.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, this is an interesting debate on the Taxation Budget Measures Bill. I think we've just had a leader, someone who aspires to be a leader of a party, make a speech pretending that he was a leader speaking on the appropriation bill, the previous legislation, rather than on the bill that we're currently debating. I think at some stage, the member's been here for 4 years now, Mr Speaker, he would know that the leaders speak on the budget and then we deal with other legislation. He totally missed, it might be called budget measures, but there is no. Well, if the member wants to have a general wide-ranging debate and to keep it going for days, well, then I'm quite willing to do it. But, sir, I'm telling the member for Vodafone that he should at least read the bill that is being debated, rather than having a very wide-ranging debate on things which don't even come close to it. Mr Speaker, I want to work backwards through the bill and start off with the student loan repeal.
A point of order has been raised.
Speaker, I'm happy to take that member's call if he's...
no, that's not a point of order. Member will sit there. Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, thank you very much. And that's I'm not going to refer to a point of order, Mr Speaker, but I did notice that the member couldn't even get to the bell himself. He couldn't even get to the bell himself. Maybe Vodafone didn't give him the notes. Maybe the Deputy Chair of the Commerce Committee at the time, who was dealing with regulatory matters, should have thought twice about accepting a trip from Vodafone. Absolutely. Sorry, he's a scumbag. I agree with the member. He is a scumbag, says Maggie Barry. I absolutely agree that that is a terrible thing to do, but I'm surprised that Maggie Barry said it to start with. Mr Speaker, let's go back to the student loan repeal of 10% voluntary bonus. We told the government this was nuts. We told the government that this scheme was a sign of absolute educational failure. Anyone who was not in the last 18 months of their repayment payment period who did this was nuts, and it would have been an indication that the tertiary education system, at least in the numeracy and accounting area, had failed. Because it was better to stick the money in the bank to collect the interest on the money and to pay it back once someone got close to the end of the loan, rather than use a scheme. We told the government that. Now, I'm told, actually, that there were a few students who used it. And that's a bit sad. It is an indication of the quality of our tertiary education system, and I probably take some responsibility for that over time. Mr Speaker, that is sad. But what is also not made clear now is that actually was doing the government good. The government's claiming that it's saving money for abolishing this. Well, that's actually not true. That's actually not true, because if people were paying the money back early, then in fact the bonus was going to the government and not to the student. But, Mr Speaker, it was nuts. It shouldn't have been introduced, and Part 3 is something that we will support. I think it's fair to say that Part 1 of the bill is a bit of a mixture. I think that David Parker made some comments, Mr Speaker, about things which both you and Mr Speaker, who comes up from up north, know pretty well, and that is that farmers are good at rorting the livestock system. They move their valuations around to take advantage of the tax loopholes that are available. And I can see from the wry smile on the face of Mr. Speaker, he understands exactly what I mean, and it's a loophole that David Parker called to be closed at one stage in the past. Members opposite said it was ridiculous at the time and we shouldn't do it. But I'm glad to see, Mr. Speaker, that someone has learned something over the years about closing loopholes, and on this particular occasion, it won't hurt for this rort, although there are plenty of others that farmers take advantage of, which are still open. But, Mr. Speaker, the reason that the Labour Party is voting against this bill is a mean attack on the kids who deliver newspapers around New Zealand. A mean attack. The kids who earn under $45 a week and previously got a tax credit. It was sort of like a way of saving. Either they get it directly or they could leave it with the Inland Revenue and at the end of the year get a tax credit. You know, Mr. Speaker, some of them it was $50 or $60 a year. Sometimes they got $50 or $60 a year back. And that was, I think, a good thing and a fair thing. They got all of their tax. If they earned under $45 a week and they were kids, they got all of their tax through earned income. I want to make it clear. It's not the farmers putting the assets in the kid's name and the interest being paid to the kid as a way of minimising the parents' tax. This is earned income. When it's earned income under $45 a week, the kids used to get it back, and that was fair. And what's happened here? Bill English and John Key, one hand each, into the kids' pockets, and taken the money away. And, Mr. Speaker, what is the worst thing? They have done it retrospectively. We've had these kids since the 1st of April this year accumulating $1 or $1.50 a week with the Inland Revenue Department as part of their tax credits. And what's happening? John Key's taking the money off them. The money which is theirs, which is sitting in Inland Revenue, retrospective legislation, retrospectively picking the pockets of the paper kids. And, Mr. Speaker, is it the kids opposite? Is it the kids of the people opposite? No, it's the kids of the poorest New Zealanders who need the money to survive. They thought they were saving up a bit of money with Inland Revenue, and they have reached in there, Mr. Speaker, and taken that money from them. Mr. Speaker, it's cruel, it's nasty, and it's typical of Tories to pick on poor kids, who need the money, who earn, some of them only earn $20 a week. Then, sorry? Mr. Speaker, I think you were just called a bloody bigot.
Order. Look, I was checking something out in standing orders and I didn't hear what was said or the context it was said in, but it certainly sounded unparliamentary. I just caution the House that we will desist from that. And a point of order, Andrew Williams.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I clearly heard the statement from this point in the House, and I would request, I was offended by it, and I would like that member to stand and apologise and withdraw. I was offended by it.
You can't be offended by that. You're not directly.
Well, point of order. Can I speak to that point of order? I think actually, just to make the standing orders clear to the member, the only person who could object to it was the Speaker, because he was the person who was described as a bloody bigot.
Look, order. I've just said it's inappropriate. We'll desist from it. The context in which it was said, I have to apologise to the House. My attention was somewhere else. Let's move on. Trevor Mallett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to make it clear that people who have little Tory pocket money schemes where the parents slip them the cash, they won't be taxed. So the people who go out to work, the kids who go out to work, they are the ones who pay tax, and the ones whose parents can afford to give them their allowances, they will not be taxed. What comes out of their trust funds, don't care where it comes from. Mr. Speaker, we're voting against this legislation because of one rotten area in it.
Russell Norman, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking briefly to this bill, because